everybody, you're very welcome to another episode of Chatting Up the Irish. Tonight I'm having a chat with John O'Regan. He's from Limerick. He is an executive producer at ARM Music. He's a CD note writer at BGO Records. He's also a lecturer and a music historian. He's a very interesting man. He studied his MA in Irish Media Studies at Mary Immaculate College. As I said, he lives in Limerick. He's going to talk to us about Limerick, about music, about all the interesting and very famous people that he mingles with and he works with in his daily life. So hang with us for about 30 minutes and we hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to share, like and comment. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Hello everybody, once again for joining Chatting Up the Irish. Tonight I'm speaking to a man of many talents. I've known him for a long time. I'd imagine probably maybe 20 years, John?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I would put it in there, yes,
Yeah,
20 years or so.
John is from Limerick City in County Limerick. And John is, if you ever want to know anything about music, musical genres, musicians, singers, anywhere around the world, John happens to be an expert. He is a musical historian. He's a lecturer. I'm going to read out all the stuff that this man does. He really is amazing. He's an executive producer with ARC Music. We'll have to talk about that, John.
Okay.
He's a CD note writer with BGO Records. As I said, he's a musical historian and a lecturer. I've heard some of his lectures. He's brilliant. He's a DJ. You have your own program on Limerick City Community Radio as well. So we'll have to talk about that. And you also contribute to Irish Music Magazine, John. Do you still contribute to the Folk Roots magazine?
Yes, I do. Folk Roots itself, unfortunately, isn't in action anymore. They ceased publication about a year ago, but because of the kind of downsizing that's been going on with a lot of the with the changeover of communication, I suppose.
Yeah.
Folk Roots found it they found it very, they were producing great magazines, but they found it difficult at the very end of the day to get a sponsor to carry them through. So
Oh,
unfortunately, they had to fold. So
amen.
Ian Anderson is now concentrating on his Pod Wireless, which is a brilliant podcast. I'd recommend
Yeah.
that as a great listening source. It's fantastic, and it's a free service. He sends it out once a month to people on the mailing list. So you
Brilliant.
can join that mailing list and get that sent to you free. It's excellent.
Fantastic. Well,
But I write for Irish Music Magazine
yeah.
still, and I also write for The Living Tradition in
Oh, lovely.
Scotland, which is still going. That's a great magazine, still going. And I also write then for two new publications which are online, Folk Radio UK, which is a very in-depth website, which is fantastic. It's run by a man called Alex Gallagher. And also then I write for another webzine called Spiral Earth, which is run by my great friend Simon Jones,
Yeah.
who was a writer with me in Fruits.
Yeah.
And he had another magazine going called First Hearing, and he gave me, along with Sean McGee and Rock and Reel, they gave me my first printed write-ups in the UK. They printed my first articles in the UK. So we've known each other a long time,
Yes.
and it's nice to see that these connections still go on
Yeah.
years and years later, and
Yeah, it is.
they
And
still happen.
those connections lead you to other connections.
Well, they do.
It's
They do
brilliant.
because I was working with Simon on some stuff for Spiral Earth, and I got in touch with Alex Gallagher in Folk Radio UK. I'd met Johnny Wally, who writes for them as well. I'd met him at Corporate, Fairport's Corporate Convention Festival. And he'd often say, "Do you ever think of writing about this?" And I did, but I never followed it up. And I said, "Please give me the name of the person." But then I'd never hear anything. But
Yeah.
one day I just got an email from Alex, and I just wrote him and said, "Look, I'd like to do something. Is there any chance, you know?" And he came back to me straight away, and he said, "Pick a couple of albums there that you'd like to do." And they had John and James Carty's new album. So I just said, "Right, I'll take that one." And he said,
Yeah.
"Brilliant." He said, "We've been looking for someone to do that one." So I said, "Terrific."
Yeah.
And then they asked me to do John Spallan's new album, which has just been released in the UK, 100 Snow White Horses, which is brilliant. So we did that. And we did a variety of other things.
Yeah.
And then I work with BGO Records, writing sleeve notes for CDs as well. And as you can imagine, last year, even though last year was the height of COVID, the business wasn't that affected by it because I
Okay.
was still writing a lot of
Yeah.
material. I still did about between 12, maybe 15, maybe 18 albums.
And
It
I
was a
suppose,
very
yeah, I
busy
suppose
year.
people
But
couldn't go
you
out
can
and
feel the effect now, though, because
yeah,
I they can't issue as much because people are working from home
yeah,
and they can't make the arrangements and do the
true.
deals like they used to until
Yeah,
maybe things are back to
yeah.
some kind of normality again to the same
Yeah, I
degree.
suppose
But
at the
it's
time,
still
I
happening.
suppose people were not performing, so they had to do something. So they probably went into a recording studio and recorded.
Yes, they did. And the great thing about BGO is that even though it's re-release material they concentrate on, um, the they have links with all the major labels, with Sony, with BMG, and with all of those, and they always manage to get really good material,
Yeah,
and they manage to get it from the source and remaster it as well as
yeah,
reissuing it. So far this year, I did a couple of albums of Waylon Jennings. I did two of his. I've just done Commander Cody. I've just finished an album of his. I've just finished. There was another one I did recently too, Commander Cody and Waylon Jennings. There was a man called Larry Harmonica Smith who was a blues harmonica player. I'd never come into contact with him before, but I knew some previous releases on that label that he was on for that record, and I could draw a couple of comparisons or whatever.
yeah.
So we were able to do the notes for that. And there's one more that I did for BGO that's coming out shortly as well. Yeah, Joe Diffie.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of some of his albums from Epic from the early 90s.
Yeah, so you've
See,
done.
they license not only stuff from the 60s and 70s, but they're also getting into the 80s and 90s stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
I would do things as varied as, say, I'd be writing about Alan Jackson one time, and then the next one I'd be doing a blues album. The
yeah,
next thing I'd be doing maybe Tom Paxton,
yeah. So
or say
you cover all
I
genres.
do. The work seems to go, and my attitude is the work is there. Take it and do it. So
Absolutely.
because even if it's somebody I'm not familiar with before, that's an adventure in itself because it's finding out about somebody that I might know and finding their music and listening to it and saying, what do I think of this? And then maybe going back through their story and finding out that there are connections with people I might know. And if I have stories to bring in, then even better.
Yeah.
It just makes the whole
Well,
package even better at the end of the day.
well,
Yes.
I remember John the first time um, I spoke. I think it's the first time I spoke to you. You rang me. You had got my CD.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'll never will forget it, John. I was at home in in the sitting room, and the phone rings, and it's you. And you say to me, "I've just listened to your CD," and I'm thinking, "Oh, here goes. He's going to tear me to shreds." But you didn't. And we ended up meeting each other in Limerick, if
Hmm,
you remember, and when we
that's
did an
right. We did.
interview. And then that night you introduced me to a reggae band, Natty
Yes.
Whaler. Do you remember?
Natty Whaler. Yes. He's
Yeah.
still going, by the
Oh,
way.
he is. Yeah, and we became friends, and
Yes. Yes.
every so often he'd come to Sligo, and I'd meet up, and you know,
Mhm.
I haven't heard from him in a long time, but I remember that night.
Oh, that was a great night. I remember it well myself. Now that you mention it, yes,
Yeah.
down in Dolan's warehouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was the day that I lost the car in the parking lot. I went to the wrong parking lot.
Amazing the things you remember when meeting up with people at gigs. It's the other stuff that you might remember too that happened also. Yeah,
So then we met up a few times in Deirdre and Liam
and Liam's
Cunningham's.
place. Yes,
Yeah,
wonderful people. Deirdre and
yeah,
Liam are
yeah,
just salt of the earth. They're
yeah,
incredible, and
yeah.
their son Fiacre is a brilliant
Oh,
musician.
he is, yeah.
And
He,
I love the way they support local talent up in their own area
yeah.
through the record label and through the studio and through Liam doing the courses
Now
with
that's
the
it. I think he's
with the local
retired from that.
musicians and kids and everything, and it's
Yeah.
just fantastic.
Liam has retired from the course now.
I say, okay.
Yes, I did chatting up the Irish with Deirdre, and she was talking
Oh,
about her
brilliant.
outdoor pursuits, and she was telling me that Liam has retired from the. I don't know. I think he might be still doing studio work, but I think he's
Right.
retired from the course.
Okay.
But I mean, he taught an awful lot of people, and
Oh, he did.
he put a
And
lot of
he
people through that
introduced an
course.
awful lot of people to local artists and people who had descended on the area and were living there, to people who were well known in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keith Donald, who used to come down and lecture
Yes.
as well. Keith from Moving Hearts, when I was doing my FYP on Moving Hearts as part of my BA when I was in UL.
Yeah.
Um, Keith and I got to be very friendly as a result of that, and we had amazing conversations. I mean, it was an amazing time working with Liam and Deirdre in their place, and
Yeah.
they were just incredible people because they had the ability to draw people to them and draw people into this well of creativity
Yeah.
where you could hear what was going on, and there was amazing things. I mean, Steve Wickham was living up the road in Sligo,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you had Charlie McGettigan, and you had
James
you had
Blenner
you had,
Hassett wasn't too far away from there either.
pardon?
James Blenner Hassett was.
James Banner Hassett, yeah, another great musician
Yeah.
who I'm in touch with regularly. He does a brilliant blog online if you want to get in touch with him and get a copy of that every week. He
Yeah.
talks about different things, but he's an amazing man.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing, John. And I remember you came to the summer school in Tubbercurry and you did a
Did.
lecture there once as well.
I did, and
People
it was
spoke
one of.
about that lecture for a long time.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so delighted.
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled
Yeah.
because I was kind of I was thrilled when Paddy Ryan turned up and recorded it for his radio show. I was delighted. And then, of course, Tommy, the late great Tommy Davis,
Yeah.
came and recorded it too. Oh God, the stories that could be written about Tommy.
Oh yeah.
But that was an incredible experience. I mean, Tubbercurry was amazing. I mean,
It is, yeah.
it was a brilliant experience to do it. And I also did it in Ballahadreen the following year at the summer school there. I got that through Ringo McDonough. And that was a lovely experience too. Great, great, great times. And Copenhagen, I did the Irish Festival over there for 2 years with Martin O'Hare. And it was a brilliant experience to do
Really
that.
good.
And we did the lecture in London as well for the Return to Camden Town Festival in
Yeah.
2005, which is now known as the Return to London Town Festival.
Oh really?
It's moved out of Camden and become a
Oh
whole
really?
metropolis thing. It's
Well,
great. It's
talking
fantastic.
about London, John,
Yes,
you were a big, massive fan of a great singer called Sandy Denny.
yes.
She
I
was an
still am.
amazing singer.
To
You
me,
still
she's the
are. You go to
the
visit her
diva.
grave every year, don't
Yes, I do. Whenever I can, and I'm in London, I go and visit Sandy's grave. It was one of the things. It was what really brought me to London originally was Sandy, because I was doing research on her life. I was one of those people who was wanting to write a book about Sandy, which never actually, which did come to pass to a degree. I did manage to get something written eventually. I did manage to put together a piece of work, and part of that meant that I needed to go to the places that she lived in and worked in and whatever. So I went over to London and met up with Linda Thompson, who was an incredible person, and also met with a variety of other people that Sandy knew on the scene over. And then I went and visited her grave in Putney Vale Cemetery, and I started doing that on a regular basis. Every time I'd be in London, whether I was in England for property or for other reasons, I'd make a beeline over to Putney Vale to see Sandy's grave, and it's incredible. It's beautifully kept still, and if you ever go there, you'll find the grave itself. It's beautifully, beautifully kept, and there's the headstone. It's the Lady Alexandra Lean McLean Denny, and then right behind her, you'll find a similar grave. It's beautifully built and kept, and it's for her father, her mother, and her brother, the remaining members of her family. So the whole family are buried together, quite near each other.
And who keeps the grave, John?
Oh, that's a good question. I know some people who actually do, because it's always incredibly kept. And I remember talking to somebody, I think it was to Kevin Smith, who was a photographer from Nuneaton, who I meet every year in Property, who was absolutely brilliant. And he said that he keeps it to some degree, and also other people keep it as well. So I think there's a circle of people who kind of look after it and look out for it. I
That's
wouldn't know who they are, but
that's really
they
nice, isn't
make a
it?
fabulous job of it.
That's a fantastic thing. And
It
there are
is.
a group of musicians or fans of hers that are doing
Mm,
it.
because there's still some connection there. I know I met her daughter, Georgia, because she came to Property about 2 years ago, and I met her there, and it was an incredible experience just to meet her, because she was rediscovering Sandy's life for herself and rediscovering her music for herself, and the whole mystique about it. She was
Yeah.
rediscovering the whole story of it. She'd kind of divorced herself from it for a long time, but then she'd finally come to accept it and come to work with it and on it. And she was in Crockery, and she was treated like royalty. And I met her, and she's an incredible person, and we're in touch on Facebook on a regular basis. But absolute sweetheart. And I met Trevor Lucas, her husband. I met his second wife, Elizabeth Hurt. I
Yeah.
met her, and she had connections in County Limerick, which is amazing. She had connections in Drumculliher,
Wow.
which we talked about on the night. And I found some material on Drumculliher afterwards and sent it to her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was one of
So
there's some of the nice things. It's like as if Sandy's kind of looking out for me, these things, as if to say, John, I'm going to,
I
here's
know.
so and so now. Here, now, you
Yeah.
don't know, but you've got a connection here.
So what happened with the body of work that you were writing?
The body of work is still there. It's still there. I still have it. I decided when I had written several unpublished books, and I decided what I would do is I'd get copies made of them just for myself, and just put all the work that I had written together in a piece and present it, and like as if it was a published book, and sort of do it and
Yeah.
say, right, put it away then. Because there was another project I was working on, a book on Irish punk rock from the 70s, and I had help from a lot of the bands and artists who were there at the time. And I had a publisher in London interested, and gave him a copy of the manuscript, but I heard nothing back. So
Okay.
I don't know what the story is, whether we even read it or not. It's going back a long time ago now, so
Yeah.
you might have even you don't know.
You don't.
But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that I had done. So when I was doing my BA and my masters, and I was doing my thesis and stuff, I decided I had the copies of the pieces I'd written, and I decided I'd get them all bound and printed, and just have them all together and say, right, well, here they are.
Yeah.
So even if nothing happens with this, here it is. Here's a copy. I can say, right, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what
And
I
you should
did on
try
this
and get it.
effort, you know?
You should try and get it published.
Yeah,
Because I'm
hopefully
sure
someday.
you have so many. I mean, all the people. I mean, we're not just talking about you. You have met and befriended some of the top musicians in the world.
Well, thank you.
You know,
Yeah, you
I'm
never know.
I'm small pittance compared to some of the people that you know.
Well, you're doing fine, Miss Hearn, and you've made a good you've made a niche for yourself in Cincinnati. You know,
Yeah. Ah,
you've
well,
made a good niche for yourself over there. You know.
I'm. It's amazing, you know, John. I went over to America and I thought, that's it. I won't be doing any more traditional singing, and who's going to want to listen to my songs, you know, or me for
You'd be
that matter.
surprised.
Yeah, and it's
Be
amazing.
surprised.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
you
such an
can't.
interest. There's such an interest because it's not just even a thing for the festivals. You might think, right, it's there for the fests, and once the fests are over, then it all dissolves again. But it doesn't, because the fest season goes from April to September,
Yeah,
and all the time then, prior to that and after it, you've got local sessions going on, and local groups playing, and you've got local acts playing, and they're all doing it all the time. I
yeah,
mean, in the there's a venue in Cleveland called the, God, what is it called now? Music Box, and it's reopened recently. And they have two regular Cleveland Irish bands. Mary's Lane is one, and Kilroy's. Kilroy's a musical family from Cleveland are absolutely amazing. I hope somebody will record them. I
yeah,
was at them to do an album years ago, and I hope to God they will at some point, because they have an incredible story to tell. And they were doing gigs at this venue, and they were both doing them as well then too, as well as all the other acts that were playing.
yeah,
The interest is there.
yeah.
The
Oh,
interest is there,
absolutely.
even on how shall I say it, a historical basis,
Yeah,
even on an intellectual basis.
yeah.
The interest is there,
Oh, it is.
and
What
it's
is?
enough to keep it rolling. And you're in the right place at the right time, as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah,
because
it's
you have
amazing,
such a
John,
wealth
because
of
you know.
material,
Yeah,
wealth of songs, wealth of experience, and you've got stuff that they've never heard.
yeah, yeah. And I sing it
And
in a way that they
give
haven't
it
heard
out.
it
Yep,
either, I suppose. But it's amazing the passion that they have, the
oh yeah,
Irish heritage, the passion they have to hang
absolutely.
on to it.
It means so much to them. It would surprise you, because most people have said this to me, and when if they have immigrated, where they mightn't have taken much interest in it here at home, The minute they get over to America, they get, whether it's loneliness, whether it's the
Yeah.
sense of separation, or whether it's in the sense of being in a different place, but they get involved and
Yeah.
it hits them. Maybe it's the distance, maybe it's the whole an intellectual thing or whatever, but something definite or an emotional thing, something definitely hits, and they get involved in a much deeper degree than they would have done so before.
Absolutely, yeah. It's amazing.
Absolutely, you'd be surprised. I mean, when you can think about it, in places like Akron and Cleveland, I discovered there's a great bagpipe tradition.
Oh
Amazing.
yeah, well the Cleveland, most of the people that came from Cleveland, or that their heritage would be Achill Island,
Yeah, Galway and Mayo. Yes.
and Achill Island have a great tradition
Mm.
of pipe bands.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah,
it's there, it's huge. Because I remember when I was over in some visits, picked up a CD of the Akron and District Pipe Band, which was great for me to get something from there to have it for the
yeah,
radio show over here and play it over here.
yeah.
And in another visit, then I picked up a CD of a local pipe band from Cleveland, which was great because they mightn't think it, but for me over here to play this stuff is very important because
Oh,
it means that there is a connection and the people love what it is here, and we respect it in the same way that maybe that the Irish American people or maybe second generation American people would respect Irish music in the same way. I think there's an equal level of respect there,
yeah. So tell me
going on
about your program.
both
Tell me
sides of the
about your
divide.
program that you do on
Sure.
the radio.
Yes. There's a show called Eclectic Celt. It goes out on Sunday afternoons at 2 o'clock. And you can get it on www.lccr.ie.
Yeah.
And you can get a podcast as well because I put up a podcast immediately after it's over. And the show features a mix of music and songs and stories and tunes from Ireland, from Scotland, from England, from America, from Europe. We've had and Australia and various things. And it's a mix of Celtic traditional folk singer-songwriters, and we go behind the music in a way because not just saying this is a set of tunes by so and so, but we talk about who they got the tunes from, what the tunes are similar to, what the songs are about, and how just kind of like to give a bit more information as to what actually happens within the piece. So the show goes great. We have live guests as well. We've had a couple of live guests this year, interestingly enough, and even in COVID. We've had Susan Quirk, who's a great singer-songwriter from Lahinch, who lives in Limerick, and she's just released an incredible album called Into the Sea. Adele Mead, whose album Bridges and Patricias is literally scoring great, getting great reaction here in Ireland. It's an amazing album, really amazing stuff. We've had her live. We've also had Valerie Armstrong, who's a great singer and harpist, and she's incredible also. She worked with a variety of different singers and musicians down through the years. Her album False Bride is excellent. We've had Peter Knight from Steel Eye Span with his group Gig Spanner, who are superb. They have a new album just out as well. And we've also had Charles O'Connor from Horselips, who has a new instrumental album out. Luca Bloom has been a guest on the show as well. He had an album out last year called Bittersweet Crimson. We had him. And we've also had John Oates from Darrell Hall and John Oates. We did an interview with him a couple of years ago where we went through his folk and blues roots, which was very, very interesting because he just released an album called Arkansas, which he had dedicated to Mississippi John Hurt. And the idea originally was just for him to sing and play the songs in an acoustic guitar. But they added more instrumentation to them as well. But the guitar he was using was Mississippi John Hurt's guitar, the actual original guitar. So we ended up talking about that, and we ended up talking about visits. His first visit to London, where he went into a club. It must have been Ronnie Scott's or the hundred club, where he saw Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee performing, and he didn't know they were on there. Just walked in the door, and there they were playing. And it was amazing. We've had a lot of interest. We've had some of the Irish American bands as well. We've had Fenians. We've had we had Father McMahon, who has been living in Bellingham in Washington for well over 20 years. He's from Limerick, but now back home. Brian Coughlin, who lives in Roanoke in Virginia. And hopefully later this year we'll have the Young Dubliners, the Fenians, because they all come on package tours, like something similar to what you do. They come on package tours. So I've asked them, if you're passing through, come in and do the show live or whatever, and we'll see what happens. But we've had some great guests on the show. But well, I like to promote local material as well, because when a group releases an album, for example, I like to get them on and talk. We have a lot. We had a lovely. We had Mairead Waynick from Malton on a couple of weeks ago, and we had a lovely singer from Donegal called Nolene Nicola, who was from up in Guido. She released a lovely album called Invogen Vora about 2 years ago for Lower Connacht, and fabulous interview, just amazing. Brilliant. There's such great talent in the country. It's unbelievable, you know.
It is, and
And we're trying our best to push it on and make it,
yeah,
because the regular stations won't do it.
yeah.
The regular stations, they're playlisted, which is fine, but the only program will be a minority, a kind of a specialist program. So what we're doing in Limerick City Community Radio is we're giving as much chance to people as we possibly can. So we welcome people to send their material into us. We welcome them to send their CDs and their MP3s and stuff. And you know, there's a great bunch of people in the station who will play it, no problem at all. And
How long?
that's,
How many years are you doing that now? You're a long time.
I'm doing that show 7 years now. It was just after my mum died, and I hadn't done a radio show in about 10 years. And two people who were in the station, Mary Honan and Pat Barry. Mary, I was a neighbour, asked me would I be interested in going on the station. I said I would, but then I wanted to kind of back out at the end of the time because I didn't think I'd be able to do it. And Mary knew a friend of mine, Lou McMahon, who was a singer-songwriter, and she was supposed to do a show with her boyfriend, but that didn't happen. But Lou was free, and and so I said, well, why don't you and Lou do it together? So for about the first year of the show, Lou and I did Eclectic Celt together, and which was great because it gave me a chance to kind of get back into it again. And it was great for her. We worked off each other very well. And then Lou started working on cruise ships, and she got a contract with them, and she did several years work on cruise ships. And so she now does a separate show called the Cool of the Evening, which is more her contemporary style of music, where I've do the more eclectic Celt type stuff, which is fine. And we also do pipe bands as well, because we have a lot of people here into pipe bands. It's great. And that's one show I do. And there's two other shows now that I'm doing. One is called Have Yez No Homes to Go To, which is fun. It's Saturday night, 11 o'clock. And we do kind of quirky stories from the internet. The type of thing whereby, say, for example, there's a story I have on tonight's show. Eva the psychic parrot, who says that England will be in the final of the Euros 2020. And Eva hasn't been wrong. So, for example, something like that. And we have some comedy clips from Yes Minister, from Fry and Laurie, from Foil Arms and Hog, a group of Irish comedians who are excellent. And also then the music then would be 70s rock and kind of like stuff from people like Donovan and whatever, and kind of things that people would remember. The idea is, I was doing a show called You Cannot Be Serious at one stage, which was a mix of comedy and chat, and it got to be true chat and whatever. So when we decided to do a new show, it was like take the best things from it and put them together and leave the political stuff out, and just make it an entertainment thing. So I have a situation whereby I'm down in the bunker in the gin joint, and senior barman is upstairs serving out the drink, and Igor the bouncer is looking after the door. We now have Boris the chef, so as well. So it's inclusive, we were making it inclusive, and we're having great fun. It's
Yeah.
brilliant. And then on Wednesdays now, I sit in for Wayne Fahey and do the midweek music mix, which is straight music from 12 to 2, something for everyone. So you don't know what you're going to hear from 1 minute to the next. I don't know what I'm going to hear from 1 minute to the next either. So it's a real mixed bag, but it's great fun. It's great fun. I absolutely love it. And it's one of the great passions in my life,
And is Limerick fairly good? Has it got a fairly good music scene?
It has. I mean, Limerick is amazing right now. COVID has brought out um, a level of creativity within people that wasn't been there. There's a local musician called John Steele who has released 2 albums in the last 7 months, which he
Wow.
recorded at home. And it's all original material on both albums, and they're incredible. He's in a band called the Flag Listeners. And we also have great new talents, people like Emma Langford, whom you might have heard of, who has played the Milwaukee Irish Fest originally, Hermitage Green, who have played the Irish Fest in Milwaukee originally. They're huge in Ireland, unbelievably big here.
Yeah.
Emma is absolutely huge too. And there's a great new talent called Denise Chyla of African come Irish extraction. And she's done a duet with Maya Brennan and Clonard on the new recording of In a Lifetime. And she's a rap singer normally, but when you hear her singing this, she has a jazz inflections in her voice. Absolutely great.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of new bands coming up. There's a lot of new young bands playing and recording and getting their own thing in every type of music, in metal, in folk, in rock, in jazz even. There was a young um, this is a great example of a migrant story turning out well. Great young guitarist from Eastern Europe. His family lived in Limerick for a long, long time, and he was a jazz guitarist. And he ended up being signed to Verve Records in America and ended up working with Quincy Jones.
Wow.
So, there's some incredible talents in the city. There always has been.
And
And
it's
it's
everywhere else in
amazing.
Ireland as well. It's everywhere, you know. I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the great thing. When I bring people over to on tours, you know, I can at one phone call and I can have a load of musicians to entertain them. You know,
Yes.
it's really great. And if they wanted jazz or if they wanted rock or if they wanted pop, you know, you're never short of talent. It's fantastic.
No, it's amazing. It always has been part of the Irish thing,
Yeah,
the Irish life experience.
yeah,
Whether you're a musician, I mean, that goes back to the old tradition of, as you and I know, the old tradition of house parties and the rambling houses and the places where people would sing a song, recite a poem, do a dance, or whatever, play some music, and where there was a welcome for all,
yeah,
and that situation has bred a whole generation of people who got into bands, who got into brass bands first, then into show bands, then into rock bands, and then into everything, or went to orchestras and got classical lessons, or they were in a traditional music family and kept playing that. It's amazing.
it's amazing.
It's absolutely incredible.
It's a great place to go to, and you know, no matter where you go in Ireland, you have castles to see, or you have
Yes, you
beautiful.
wouldn't believe how many castles. I mean, if you arrive in Shannon Airport and you're going into Limerick, well, the first castle you'll see is Bunratty.
Unratted, of course, yeah,
But after Bunratty, there's at least two more,
yeah,
which nobody knows anything about because they're actually on private land. But the remnants of them are still there.
yeah,
So if you come out of Shannon Airport again and you go into Ennis, before you go into Ennis, you'll see Queen Abbey.
yeah,
And then once you get out of Ennis, go on to Galway, then you'll go down to the Hinch, then you'll see O'Brien's Castle.
yeah.
And then go further on up, then you'll see
Young
you,
choirs,
yeah, and then you'll see the castle that Alec Finn, God rest him, used to live in, Moore Castle before going into Galway.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, it is. It's amazing. The whole place is amazing. People love it.
Mm.
I love
And
going.
and in Limerick, people come to King John's Castle, of course. And amazingly enough, about King John's Castle, that's right in the city centre.
Yeah,
There's only one other place that I know of in Ireland that has a castle right in the city centre, and that would be in Kilkenny. But King John's Castle is right in the city centre, and I worked around that area for about 20 years in
yeah,
St Mary's Aid in Nicholas Street. I was working next door to the castle,
yeah.
and we used to see an awful lot of people
Visitors.
coming in, and the first thing they'd ask for would be the castle.
Yeah,
So you'd have that, and then across the way, then you have the Bishop's Palace, which has been recently rebuilt,
oh,
and
really?
then right alongside that, then you have the Masonic Lodge. The Freemasons built a new lodge there some years ago, and they built it using not in a more modern design, but they built it in an old-fashioned design to
Yeah,
blend in with the area, with the street.
yeah,
And then further on up, then you'd have St Michael's Church, and then you'd have the Treaty Stone. Then going out to where I am right now, out where I work right now, out in St. Munchin's Community Centre, in which I must give a plug for Linda Ledger, because she's the most amazing community activist you'll ever come across. This lady should be on the Ellen Show. I guarantee you,
yeah, yeah,
she ought to be on it because she's done so much for people within the local area and within the local St. Munchin's area and Limerick City as well. During COVID, during the height of COVID, in St. Munchin's Community Centre, they were sending out 500 meals a day,
there you go.
7 days a week
Fair
to
play.
people within the local area Limerick City and the surrounding area as well. They went out to the county. Linda's attitude is wherever the call comes from, they'll answer it.
Fair play.
And it's just amazing. It's just incredible. My time there has been blessed because they're the most amazing bunch of people I've ever met. They're absolutely wonderful. So I take my hat off to them.
Yeah, it's amazing, John. It's
It
amazing.
is.
You know your life and the people that you've worked with and the people
Oh
that
yeah.
you've met. I mean,
I'm blessed with the people I have worked with, and with the people that are in my life, including Dee, who was
yeah,
absolutely incredible as another half,
yeah.
and
And for all us,
learning
our
so much about it.
listeners, by the way, it's for all our listeners, John knew this lady from
Yes.
the States. He knew her for a long time, but eventually he talked her into coming over to Ireland and they
Yep.
got married. Was it
Yes, we did.
last year or the year before you got married, John?
Last year.
Last
Last year.
So
The 13th of November, 2020.
Darlene has done the exact opposite to what I did. She's gone
Mm,
over to marry a man in Ireland, and I came over to marry a man in America.
in America.
In America, it's
So
amazing.
there you go.
I want to, for all our listeners, John, we want to congratulate you.
Thank you so much. Thank
Wish
you.
yourself and Darlene a very, very happy.
Yeah, and it's an interesting situation because we managed the situation with the legals with the legalities that are there. I mean, coming and going 3 months at a time.
Yeah,
It's. I mean, I've done long distance relationships for a long time,
yeah.
and I might be a bit more experienced in that area than others people might. But Dee's handling it brilliantly. And I mean, we've managed it. In fact, we'll be talking after this interview is over.
Well, tell her I said hello.
I will, to be sure, certainly, yes.
John,
And
would you believe
we
our
have,
time is up?
pardon?
Would you believe our time is up?
Is it?
It is.
God,
We could talk for hours and hours and hours.
we'll be here for
Maybe
another while,
the
you know.
next time I come home, you'd never know. We might meet up again.
Oh yeah, that'd be brilliant. I'd love that.
So,
And
if people
hopefully,
want to listen to your radio program, tell them again where they can.
okay, it's www. You can get this on the internet because there's some wonderful. Okay, I'll give you the station. The name of the station is Limerick City Community Radio.
Yeah,
It's on www.lccr.ie,
sorry.
and the shows are.
I'll put it down below.
Will you put it down? The shows are Eclectic Celt on Sundays at 2 p.m. And if you miss it, you can hear a repeat on Tuesdays at 6 p.m.
Perfect,
But
John.
that's Irish time, of course.
Perfect.
But there's a podcast as well on the website, and we've all this year's podcast, so you can listen back to any of the shows that we've done this year so far. Anytime you just click into it, just put up Eclectic Celt in 2021,
And do you take
whatever show you'd like to hear. Pardon?
do you take requests?
Oh, we do. We take requests, certainly. If somebody wants to send a request, yep, by all means, shoot them into me. We have actually, I could give this to you now. Just give me one minute while I'll just have to minimize a second just to read you out our number that they can get us on. Just give me one sec. Okay. Just give me a minute now when I do this. Okay, give me 1 minute. Okay. I'll give you our number that you can reach us at, and here it is. We've got a contact us page on our website as well. So I'll read you out the numbers, and people can work their way in those. If you'd like to contact us, you can get us on Facebook, Limerick City Community Radio. We're there, and Twitter is at LCCR1, and that's all in capitals, by the way. You can also WhatsApp us because we're on a WhatsApp too, and you can text us as well. Our text, I'll give you our text just in case you want that. 083 44 666 55. Now you got to put a 011353 before that, as usual, if you're coming from the States.
I'll put all that in the info.
Oh, by all means, please do. And what else have we got? All the material, all the podcasts are available, and there's if you want to send us a message through there's a message page as well that you can send any message through to us as well. So it's Eclectic Celt on Sundays at 2 p.m. and it's also on Saturday nights, and Saturday nights at 11 p.m. if you fancy spending some time in the bunker with a gin joint. Oh, and Senior Barman and Igor are now launching a new phenomenon, which we call social distancing. And you can see them do it live. One of these days, we'll get a picture of them doing it live and put a video up and all that kind of stuff.
That's
But if you want to hear what goes on in the bunker, you can listen tonight at 11 p.m. to have you snow homes to go to. Or if you want to hear some
yeah,
great music, listen in anytime.
yeah,
Wednesdays, 12 to 2 for the Midweek Music Mix. Yeah, we're
yeah,
there.
for everyone over here, we are 5 hours behind John, so it won't be 11 o'clock our time.
It'll be 6 o'clock your time.
Yes, it would. So
Yeah.
I would like to thank everybody for tuning in to us, and I'd like to thank John for joining us as well. We're sponsored by Secret Ireland Tours, and if you listen to this conversation that myself and John had, and you want any questions, please feel free to drop us a line or write a comment below. Please like, share, and tell everybody about Chatting Up the Irish. And if you want to come to Ireland in 2022, please check out secretirelandtoursllc.com. And you'd never know, we might hit Limerick and we might all go into the studio to see John.
Indeed. Oh yeah, no problem. No hassle. We have a nice studio area. We're in a nice building, community building, and there's a tea and coffee making facilities as well. So yeah, we're good. We'll handle them.
Look, John, thanks very much again, and thank you all for listening in to us. And it's been a pleasure doing all these programs for people. You know, I get great feedback from people. So we are on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on MeWe, our Secret Ireland Tours Facebook page. Please like and share, and please subscribe to our YouTube and our Rumble channel. That would help us greatly. So John,
Indeed.
once again, thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure. May wait till I get back into our picture, because I mean I've got your picture, but you haven't got mine.
I have yours here.
Oh, you can see me. Okay, that's great. And one more thing I wanted to say: if oh yes, the invite is there for you as well when you do your next album. You know.
Yes. Well,
come on and talk to me about it.
My next album, I was thinking, for anyone who's interested, Cormac McConnell is a good friend of mine, and he's written some beautiful songs, and he's told me any song that I want, I can have. Anything that he's written before, anything that he's writing now, or anything that he writes in the future, which is unbelievably kind of him. But I would love to do an album of his stuff.
Oh, brilliant. Well, who knows?
I have music behind it, and I'm thinking there's a few great musicians over here and in Columbus that I would like to kind of work with. Eventually,
brilliant.
It all takes money though, John, and that's
of course, yes it does.
Yes, it does. So that would be my next project. That would be my next album, and I'd like to do that and dedicate it to him.
Great. Yeah. Well, I look forward to that when it happens.
Yes. I'm not as afraid of you now, John, as I used to be.
You're not as afraid of me? Oh God. Yeah, well, I've noticed I seem to terrify people for some reason. I get reaction. I look at some people, you know, and get the impression, oh my God, what's he going to say to me?
Yeah. No, what's he going to say about me? That was the thing.
What's he going to say about me? That's probably what it is. Yeah, I realize now why Richard Thompson and Robert Plant was afraid of me.
Yeah, because your reviews are highly thought of. I mean,
oh, thank you. Thank you
so much. They are the highest thought of, I think.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor to hear that.
Yeah. So now I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much, John, and thank you everybody for tuning in.
No problem. It's been my pleasure. Lovely to talk to you again, and best of luck to you on the show and the tours and everything.
Thank you very much, John.
We'll see each other in post-COVID days, I hope.
We will indeed. God bless you.
Yeah. Bye. Bless you. Bye now. See you.